Welcome to the Teapot Reads. My name's Sam. I'm the Teapot. This is what I'm currently reading, and I'm so happy to see you today. I am currently obsessed with Our Flag Means Death. I was really hoping that the t-shirt that I ordered would have arrived by now so that I could have worn it for this video, but it's not yet arrived, so you're just gonna deal with this. And believe me when I say I am 100% obsessed with this show. It has brought me so much joy and just, it's done a lot for me on a spiritual level. I had to do a video showcasing my love for the show, and the best way to do that is to do a recommendation video. So I am recommending books for every member of the crew of the Revenge. I am putting Izzy, Fang, and Ivan on this list because I love them. Yes, I love Izzy. Deal with it if you don't. There are a lot of other characters on the show that I think would be interesting to add as well. Or not a lot, but there are other characters I think would be interesting. I'm not going to do that. I'm just doing the crew, plus Ed, plus Izzy, Ivan, and Fang. Also, if you're watching this and you're like, what's Our Flag Means Death? It's awesome. It's a great show. It's about pirates, kind of. It's on HBO Max. Go watch it. Oh my god. And HBO, if you're watching... If you're watching my video, renew it! Renew it! Give us a season 2, please! There will only be really light spoilers for Our Flag Means Death. I'm not really going to be talking about the events of the final 2 episodes. I will probably be alluding to characters and relationships, but not just in those last 2 episodes, but across the board. I'm going to try not to spoil any major plot points because it's a show worth watching, and I definitely won't be spoiling any of the books. So don't worry. If the reason I think a character would like a book is because of a spoiler reason, I will just say it's a spoiler reason and not tell you what exactly that reason is. I do also want to say my dog is up on my bed. He's right there. You can't see him. I can see him though. He's very cute. He's a good boy. And he's probably going to be whining the entire time because he's been very whiny today. Even though I've played with him and run around with him, he wants a lot of attention, which I get. I get you. But right now we're filming, Tank. Let's start off with Ivan. So for Ivan, I recommend Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I think of all the characters on this list, Ivan is the one we know the least amount about, but he does admit that seeing Ed with Steed is the most emotionally vulnerable he's seen as captain, and he seems really happy about that. And Pride and Prejudice is all about letting down barriers and being emotionally vulnerable, so I think he'd really enjoy the course that this story and our protagonists take. So yeah, Pride and Prejudice, Ivan, I think you'd really dig this one. I think the flowery language might throw him off, but he would also kind of be down for the drama. I get that vibe from him. Okay, so one of probably my favorite of like the secondary, or I guess the tertiary cast, if we're not like not the protagonist, not the immediate like secondary cast, my favorite of like the tertiary group is definitely Buttons. I adore Buttons. Spiritually, I think we're linked in a lot of ways. And so I had to give him Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as my recommendation for Buttons. There's no ocean in this book, which is a shame because Buttons does want to make glorious love to the ocean, I believe is what he says. And so I think that might not be a huge draw. However, I think that the antics of the characters and the logic of this book really would align with his logic and his vibes. And I'm not saying he's random, because he's not random. He definitely has a motivation and a reason for everything he does, and I totally get it and understand you and see you, Buttons. You're magical. But I think that it would just align with sort of the chaotic elements of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So I think he would enjoy this. Also, it's quick. I get a sense that he's sort of the character person that doesn't read a lot of books every year. I don't think a lot of them do. But of them all, I really don't think Buttons does. He's much more of an outdoorsy guy, but I think that if he read one book every year or every 2 years, I think he'd enjoy this series. It would keep him going for a while. Hey, this was a little hard. For Alawande, I recommend Little Women. And I recommend Little Women because family. We don't know that much about Alawande except really his relationship with Jim. And he seems really interested in Jim's relationship with their family, specifically in the episode with their Nana. He's like, coming, Nana. Like, the way he just says it is very gleeful, and I think he would enjoy the family bonds here, and I think he would also enjoy the fact that there is a serious level, and it's not just like a happy ending story. This has consequences. It has decisions being made that may not necessarily make the narrative end the way that readers want it to end. And I think he is the type of person who could appreciate that sort of somber tone to this otherwise very happy story. Yeah, I think he'd really enjoy just like the sisters. I think he'd get that vibe and really run with it and just enjoy it. I adore Frenchie. I adore all these characters, okay? I adore Frenchie, and I adore his like desire to sort of be like a spy and have like this espionage prowess. Like in the penultimate episode, Act of Grace, he's like, I was built for this sort of espionage, and then like isn't very much. And he also has that whole like pyramid scheme thing going on. So I think that Six of Crows would be the book for him. I think he'd really dig the heist elements of this story, would love all the masquerading, all the like little politicking, and it's YA, which is not like me saying anything bad about YA, but I don't think that if he was reading a serious heist story, he would enjoy it as much as a sort of campy, fun fantasy heist. I think this is much more up Frenchie's alley. So, Six of Crows, Frenchie, this is for you. Another character I'm like spiritually linked to is the Swede. I just vibe so hard with him sometimes. And anyway, I recommended to him Bramley Hedge. I absolutely love Bramley Hedge. I only read it for the first time recently. It's about these like cute little mice. It's a picture book series, so I think that kind of goes along with him. But the reason I gave this to him is because the Swede of every crew member is the most gentle, I would say, and the one who would probably most get along with animal stories. I think he would be happy to live in the sort of whimsical, happy animal world and just really enjoy it. He strikes me as a very artistically minded spirit. He loves singing, so I think that being able to just bask in the art here would really go along well with him. For some of these recommendations, I haven't actually like read them, but I know enough about some of these things that I think I'm okay in recommending it for these characters. And number one in that, for Black Pete, I recommend One Piece. 100% think this would live up to everything he wants. I know it's it's not a truthful story, right? But he loves tall tales. I mean, he tells them about himself and about Blackbeard, so he's really into that. And I think he would very much be reading One Piece and would take those stories and claim like he did these things, maybe drop some of the magical elements, maybe not, but I really think that it would capture the high seas adventure that he craves and that he craves to be a part of and views himself as being very capable to be a part of. So Black Pete, One Piece, and I definitely think he would be very much like, no one else can read manga. I'm reading manga. This is my series. This is like, he would just gatekeep One Piece and manga in general, I think. I love the character, but he's an asshole, okay? For Wee John, this is another character we just don't know a lot about because he's not in it very much, but I would recommend for him fairy tales, and specifically the fairy tales of Hans Christian Andersen. I don't know if I could give a definitive reason other than originally I put down Grimm's fairy tales, but I was like, nah, I think Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales are much more up Wee John's alley. We do know that he knows how to sew and used to sew dresses with his mother, and we don't know that much more. We know he's never had a room of his own. He's kind of set up as almost a fairy tale protagonist in some ways with just these small tidbits we get. So yeah, he's another one like the Swede who's very much like into being told stories. So I think fairy tales, which are very much an oral tradition, would be something he would be very into. All right, this was the hardest character to find a recommendation for. Roach. It was so hard. I was really struggling. I'm ending up giving him another manga recommendation. I would recommend to Roach Chainsaw Man. This is another one I haven't read, but even though Black Pete is like over here gatekeeping manga in One Piece, I definitely could see Roach being really into Chainsaw Man, and just getting along well with the protagonist of that series. He likes knives. He knows how to cook, makes a great cake. If I liked oranges, I 100% would have made that cake by now, but I freaking hate oranges. I dislike the way they smell. But yeah, I really think Roach, Chainsaw Man. I also think he's a busy guy. Most of the characters on the ship are busy. Obviously, they're working on a ship, but I think we see him with the most jobs. You know, he's working on deck, but he's also the chef, and he's also the surgeon. So Roach is a busy guy. So manga, short chapters, I think that works well for his lifestyle. Fang. I love Fang. He's so good. He is such a good character. Oh my god. I don't like vibe with him the way I vibe with other characters, but I just love him as a character in general. I think he's great. And for Fang, this was also another kind of hard one, but I recommend the Dragonbone chair, and I do have a copy. It is just way up there and very hard to get to without a step stool, and I hate bringing the step stool in here. It's a whole ordeal. The reason I would recommend this to Fang, there is an animal companion. We know he had a dog. It's in doggy heaven right now. R.I.P. Fang's dog. And I think he'd really like that. And I also think he would like the scale of adventure and just the attention to detail. He's definitely a guy who wants sort of blockbuster stories. He's very reactive. We see him in the background of a lot of scenes going on. When a talent show is announced, he's like, oh, like it's cute. It's awesome. You know, when Lucis offers to sketch him, he's like, oh, you know, he's just a reactive guy. And I think a blockbuster book and a series like the Dragonbone Chair, Austin Art, I think that would just get along really, really well with his sensibilities. Plus, animal companion. He needs that. I was thinking, do I have any stories that really revolve around dogs? And I don't. I really don't. But I don't want to define him just by dogs. Okay. So for Jim, I recommend Nevernight. Their story is all about getting revenge. And anyway, I think they just get along well with Mia. I think they would find the magic elements really, like, stupid and silly. They just don't strike me as someone who likes impracticalities like that. But I think they would really like Mia and her story and would be rooting for her the entire way and maybe taking a couple notes like, oh, I could do something like that. So I think this was a really easy one for me. I was like, Jim, Mia, yeah. Same character, different fonts, basically. So for Lucius, I knew it had to be a sort of trashy story because I don't think he cares about, like, serious stories. He's a very sarcastic person, even when he's trying not to be. And I also was like, okay, trashy romance, but he does not have time for straight people. We know this, okay? We know this. So I went with A Gentleman Never Keeps Score by Cat Sebastian. This is a queer romance. It's gay. The Cat Sebastian books I've read, I wouldn't say they're, like, trashy, but this is, like, the closest to, like, trashy of this trilogy. It just has the most sex scenes. It has the most drama in it. You know, and I think Lucius would be all for that. He's always writing. Give him a break. Take a break from writing about, like, actual real life events and just read this, like, nice little... It's not fantasy, except in the, like, happy ending sense. So, give him a break. Read some romance. Maybe he does have time for straight people. I was considering Twilight. I think in a kind of perverse way, he might actually enjoy that. This one was really easy. For Izzy Hands, whom I love, I recommend Ship of Magic and just the entire Live Ship Trader series, but I haven't finished that series. I've read the first two, but I would recommend this. He would just love Kenneth. He would really dig Kenneth. There are moments when I think he'd be like, Kenneth is a fucking idiot. Like, what a dandy, but mostly I think he would really love Kenneth and the way he captains. He would also hate Kyle Haven. Absolutely hate Kyle Haven. I really think he would. And I hope that if he's reading this book hating Kyle Haven, he would maybe, like, take a note and be like, maybe I skew a little closer to this guy. But he would just dig Kenneth. Okay, he would be a Kenneth fanboy. Okay, we're down to Ed and Steed. Who do I share first? Oh my god. Let's go with Ed. All right, for Ed, I picked A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. I don't think Ed would enjoy everything in this book, but I think he would see some parallels to his life, and mostly I think he would just love the ending, which I can't tell you, but if you've read this book and seen the show, what Ed wants and the ending of this book are very closely aligned. I think you'd find a lot of therapy in this book. And finally, Steed, Captain Steed Bonnet. Love you, man. I don't know where my copy of The Hobbit is, but The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, he's basically Bilbo Baggins in a lot of ways. I think he would love the adventure story. He'd love this like ordinary hobbit going off on this grand adventure. I think he would just absolutely imprint himself on this book and in these characters, and yeah, it just, I think, goes so well with him. I also saw someone on TikTok was recommending The Princess Bride for Steed. I think that's also another really good choice. But my just first thought was The Hobbit, and that is where I'm sticking. I just know he would love it. And he would hate the movie adaptations. I know this as well. Alright, thank you for watching. If you're new here and you like this content, please consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me. And if you are returning, thank you so much for watching and for being here. It's I don't have words by how grateful I am to have you here watching me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't watched Our Flag Means Death, I think that should be your top priority. There's only 10 episodes. They're short. Go watch it. It's good. If you really hate the humor after episode 1, though, it's not for you. I will tell you that. I will be honest. If you are somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm. And if you're somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable. Most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I will see you guys next time. Bye!